and welcome back to my channel. Today we continue our Ayumi Hamasaki music marathon with my review of her 13th full album, Party Queen. Before we get started, I want to remind you that this is simply my opinion on the album, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more. Yeah, I know I should have ended this series of reviews back in May, but life really got in the way and I'm slowly getting back on the channel, and I thought, well, there's only 5 reviews to go for this entire Ayumi Hamasaki project, and so that is why I'm publishing today what I think of Party Queen, which is an album that, yes, back then was very controversial. And all I remember from it at the time was that the visuals to the music made fans, to the very least, very perplexed by this album. I mean, after all, this album did shake things up in her discography, and I think still to this day is a very peculiar album because it really went for it, and she defended it by saying that she created the persona of the party queen, and that's why this album is quite interesting in its themes. It is because it feels very much like a party album in a way that it's really fun and sometimes very dark, and the party queen life seems quite lonely, and on songs such as Shake It, for example, there is once again this study of what femininity can be, and it seems like a theme that really comes back around in her work, especially on a recent song that I remember, which is W from the mini album Trouble. And it seems like Ayumi really questions a lot of things through her lyrics, and even being a woman, what it means to be a woman in society, appearances and all that, and she really took on this persona on this album very seriously. And also the album inspirations are at times very British in its melodies, which isn't a surprise since Timothy Willard, who worked even more with Ayumi on this album, is British, and he definitely was heavily involved in this album, which again wasn't to everyone's cup of tea. And for me, one thing that was a bit jarring was that at times his voice was very low and different from Ayumi's super high-pitched voice, so you need time to get used to it sometimes. But I thought overall, the fact that he was so involved in the production of this album really added something to it that doesn't really appear in the rest of her discography as much. And once again, the album does suffer from the same problem that Rock and Roll Circus had, which is too many ballads all next to each other. I mean, you get Call, Letter, and Reminds Me all together, and it really creates this break in the album rhythm and flow. And even though they all sound different, I can't help but feel like they could have been balanced a lot better. And after these 3, there are at least 2 more ballads later on the album, so that for me is way too much. Honestly, I don't mind 2 to 3 ballads here and there. I understand that in an album they are necessary, at least 1, which is usually what most artists do, most of the time at least. And even though my favorite one on this album is The Next Love, because I like the fact that it really tries to be different with its very jazzy 60s vibe, and I really liked how it also fits with her voice really well. And it's quite a challenging song vocally, but I think she did it really well. The interludes on this album are also quite sparse, only 3, and they didn't bother me out at all. If anything, they might be the most interesting we've had in a while, with Taste Kebab feeling very Muse-like, which again is a very British band. And also Cup of Tea is very different, very kind of fun to me, and I appreciate that they try to keep these interludes really close to the theme of the album this time. The song Tell Me Why really takes its sweet time to take off, to really become as interesting as it can be, which is a shame, honestly, because once it's through the first verse and chorus, it becomes so interesting, and I don't know why it drags so much at the beginning. And I think for me, the biggest problem this album has is that the melodies and the production and all the new things that were tried are interesting and work overall really well, but I don't think they always fit Ayumi's voice as well. as I think her and her team hoped. And it really shows on songs like Na Na Na, Party Queen, or Eyes Smoke Magic, the latter being very cabaret and very on the nose, so you either like it for its silliness or you don't. And in my case, I feel a bit conflicted because it's different for sure, but I don't know if this type of song really fit with her character as well. And it is when things do go back to the good old ways that Ayumi seems to find her balance back, like on the song like Reminds Me or Return Road, that has an amazing chorus, by the way. But really, this album suffers maybe from being too bold and too audacious on a vocal level for me. And, I'm not talking about the way she sings, but I believe for a singer, having a song that fits your voice is the most important part, and sometimes it doesn't always go that well. And I think Party Queen is a good example of that. I mean, in theory, it should work. And I like the fact that she was like, okay, we're doing this and we are really doing this. And I like the fact that she was bold and tried, honestly. Overall, Party Queen is an album that still to this day stays as a very memorable one for good or for bad reasons. And I personally can't say that I love it, but I appreciate the effort to do something so radically different. And it is very much one of the boldest albums that she has released back then and even to this day, almost. And although it's not without flaws, it definitely is an album that stands out in her later discography, and that is why I give it 3.5 stars. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to tell me what you think of the album down below, and I'll see you next time for my review of Love Again.